This is episode 12 with Lewis Howes. Hi, my name is Mike Dillard, and this is Self-Made Man, the podcast for men who want to leave their mark on the world and create a legacy of honor, integrity, and achievement in every aspect of their lives. I'm glad you're here, and once again, it is time to forge your destiny. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, Mike Dillard here, and welcome to another episode of Self-Made Man, and today's is going to be packed with unbelievably valuable insights and information from my friend Lewis Howes. If you are an entrepreneur or if you're thinking about becoming one, and before we dive into the interview with Lewis, I'll give you a brief background on this call. You know, when I sit down and I take up-and-coming entrepreneurs through the process of starting a business, we really begin with two things, and the first is we begin with the need to really figure out which niche or industry you want to build your business in. And then second, we need to figure out how you're going to stand out in the crowd. Attention is literally the world's most valuable resource today. That is what Facebook, YouTube, and Google all monetize to the tune of billions of dollars per year. So as you start a new business or step into a new niche, grabbing the attention of your target audience is absolutely critical, and the best way to do that is to be different in some form or fashion, and that is exactly what I call the unique angle. So about 2 years ago, I stumbled across a gentleman named Lewis Howes who was executing this plan in style, and when I say style, I mean that literally. After suffering an injury during his career as a professional football player, Lewis was really inspired to become a lifestyle entrepreneur and reinvent his life, specifically after reading The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. So he set out on this mission to help 1 million people live the life of their dreams by starting a business that is based on their biggest passion. And, you know, while he's well on his way to accomplishing that goal, there's a less obvious but incredibly valuable opportunity here for existing entrepreneurs like you and I, studying his incredible skills when it comes to building his personal brand. You know, while most online entrepreneurs, solo entrepreneurs, online marketers all focus on conversion rates because that's really what drives an online business, Lewis has focused on building what I think of as a GQ style or level of his brand and image. And so what has the result been? Well, from my observation, an incredible amount of respect, recognition, opportunity, and results in the mainstream markets and press. His School of Greatness podcast is approaching over 800,000 downloads per month. He's been featured on the homepage of iTunes 8 different times. He's got some magazine covers coming out. And what he's been doing has been incredibly impressive on this front. And so today, we have the opportunity to sit down with Lewis as he really discusses and reveals the secrets behind his branding success and how you can apply these strategies to your business. It is definitely something that I have been paying attention to, something that I've discussed with Lewis many times. It was the inspiration behind the new website at MikeDillard.com and my personal brand there to up the game. On that front, Lewis was instrumental in helping me launch this podcast as well. And so he's a guy that I've been studying closely. You need to be studying him as well. So with that being said, please welcome Lewis Howes. And if you love this episode, if you get as much value from it as I believe you're going to, please share it with those you know and support the show. Thank you so much, and here we go. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Self-Made Man, and today we have Mr. Lewis Howes. Lewis, how are you doing, my friend?
I am doing fabulous. Thanks, Mike.
Awesome, brother. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to come on the show today.
Yeah.
And I am pretty excited because this is, in many ways, full circle for me because you were the guy who really helped me get this podcast started, and I'm super appreciative for all of the guidance on that. I'm looking forward to diving into your show and how you got your podcast started a couple of years ago. But just wanted to say thank you for all of that because it's been awesome.
Well, I appreciate it, man. And you've got so much wisdom to give to the world. So it only makes sense that you do it in a way and in a podcast format. And your voice is so resonating that it's perfect for listeners as well.
I have a great face for radio. So.
You do, yes.
Well, awesome, brother. I thought it would be really valuable to talk a little bit about your story with the audience today, but specifically from a viewpoint of how you have approached personal branding, and to give a little bit of backstory about why I think that's going to be so valuable for you guys who are listening is I'm in the middle of producing a course myself right now for a lot of my students. And one of the first things that we're doing, and really stage one, is, picking your niche. Which industry do you want to, build your business in? And one of the most important parts of that process is to pick what I call your unique angle, which means how do you stand out in a marketplace? And so I think you did that beautifully, Lewis, here in the entrepreneur, small business owner, solopreneur space, whatever you'd like to call it, which is a very, very crowded space. And so I wanted to really hear from you how you did that, what your unique angle was. We can talk about, the website design, the photo work that you've done. I've got a whole list of things that I could point out, but obviously I'd love to hear it from you first.
Sure.
And I think that'd be awesome.
Sure. Well, personal branding to me, I feel like the way people perceive you is really who you really are in the world. So for me, I learned early on that design was really important, and that the images that you put out, any image you put out there online of yourself, is how people are going to perceive you. So why put out images that are 2 or 3 years old? Why have, crappy design, and why have design where marketers, in the online marketing space, a lot of marketers will say, well, the worst design actually converts better. So we just have, plain simple text and yellow headlines and things like that. And I just never really connected with that. For me, I was always conflicted by trying to create something that convert, to build a business, to generate sales, to get people to opt in, to get them to take action, and building something that was beautiful and at least looked, pleasant to the eye. And for me, I was always conflicted with that. And so I was always researching about, looking at some of the best blogs and looking at design online, and just constantly researching and constantly seeing, creating mental, bank deposits of what I liked, what the feelings I got when I looked at specific design. And I think for me, I've always wanted to create a feeling from people, because when you can generate that emotional charge in one way, shape, or form, whether it's mystique or intrigue or sexiness or any of these different things that create an emotion in people, I feel like you capture their attention in a different way. And I recently had this branding expert on. Her name's Sally Hogshead, and she said it. You know who she is. Yeah, she's great. And she said something that actually I probably didn't think of until I think I was doing it, but I didn't really connect with it until she said it. She said something along the lines of like, don't try to be better than your competition, try to be different, and different is better than better. She said different is better than better. And I was like, interesting. It's not about trying to be better and be the same and be better. It's about being different. And so I think I've always tried to share my story for what it is, and talk about who I am, and put myself out there in the ways that are different than everyone else. And because I can't compete with these bigger online entrepreneurs who have 500 employees and, sold businesses for $100 million. I can't compete with that. That's not who I am. But I can share my story and be different and attract an audience and attract customers, because I'm leading with that authentic difference. And my goal is to do it at a high level of design and branding online. And each year I just try to up the game a little more. If I look at my design from my site from, when I first started in 2009 or whatever, it's like I would throw up if I looked at it now. But it's like every year I push the envelope for my comfort level and say, man, can I really afford to spend this much money on design when it's just a website, or do this many photo shoots with these top photographers? Is it really going to make a difference? And is it really going to push the needle? Updating, getting new photos every 2 months and updating the design and really investing in the branding. But I just feel like that's all we have, is the perception that people think about us online specifically. And every photo and every message is all we have. If they never see you in person and never connect with you in person, then all they have is what they view online. So why not really invest in being different and doing it at a high level with your brand, is my thoughts.
Yeah, that's really how I came across your stuff. I don't remember exactly, when or how, but when I came across your website, I was like, wow, this is different. And, that's what caught my attention and why I ended up following your work. And, it's interesting. I've had many conversations with a mutual friend of ours, Tucker Max, here in Austin.
Yes. Yeah, he's great.
And, I was like, Tucker, I'm really frustrated because, there's only been 2 or 3 people, and I put you in that group. I put Marie Forleo and I put Ramit Sethi in the group of basically internet marketers, information publishers, people who do the exact same thing that I do, but that have not been boxed into the internet marketing niche. And it's been really neat and yet frustrating to watch, to watch you guys, because you've been able to navigate that successfully. And I'll put Dale Partridge in that box as well. It's been really interesting to watch how you guys, because you've navigated that, get really good mainstream press and mainstream opportunities. And so that's really what started to get my attention. And that's when we connected about a year ago. And I was like, hey, who did your website?
Yep.
And for me, the new businesses and projects that I'm working on, the goal for those, specifically the hydroponics business, is to go really, really, really mainstream. And so a year ahead of time, I realized that I needed to start updating my personal brand, making it more mainstream, making it more professional. And so that was really cool that you really set that example. And yet at the same time, I talked to Dale about 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
And we just did a little consulting call together, and he's talking about how important it is to have the shiny, glossy, professional looking, design in every aspect of your business. And yet I'm sitting there internally, and I'm having Dale on one of the upcoming episodes, so we'll talk about this then. But internally in my head, I'm like, I understand it and I appreciate it, but it's not converting.
Of course.
It's not converting. Yet there are these intangible values that are coming in at the same time. And so it's been a little bit hard for me to digest, yet at the same time, you can see the advantages to doing it in the long run.
Yes. Yep.
And so...
yeah, I mean, I get the same way. I look at you and, Frank Kearns of the world, and I'm like, man, you're making, 8 figures a month or whatever you're making. And I'm like, well, that's not the level I'm at yet. But, you don't see Frank Kern on the Today Show and, any other regional news or in magazines unless he's like paid for it or something. So it's like, what's the difference maker between building that trust with the mainstream media, at least, and then being able to broaden that? So for me, there's a lot of things I can learn from you and other people that don't have it, who are just generating so much income and revenue that it's like ridiculous. So I think there's always like the grass is always greener. But if you can, I think Ramit and Marie have done an incredible job of doing both. They're making the 8 figures and New York Times bestsellers and in the media constantly, and Fortune magazine spreads and all that stuff, magazine covers with Marie. And so for me, it's really about, I want to have it all. I want to continue to build the brand. And I feel like if the brand is there, the customers and the influence will be there for products and services later to get to that level, and to do it at a high level and continue to charge premium pricing and it not be a question. And that authority and influence and brand equity will continue to support those products, and it will make it easier to get people to buy.
Yeah, no, agreed. And so there's a couple things that I noticed that you did differently. One, again, paying attention to the image, the look, the feel, and I just, for lack of a better term, I call it GQ-ness or whatever it may be.
Right.
Magazine style quality photography. And there's another thing that I thought was interesting, which is I've never seen a video sales letter or a long form sales letter from you. And what was the third piece? Those were really primary. Oh, those were the 3. Professional photography, no slideshow video sales letters, no long form sales letters.
Yeah, I'm with the sales letters. I don't know if this is something, maybe I just haven't taken the time to create those long form sales letters, and I've never liked them. So if I'm going to have a sales letter, it's going to be different. It's going to be designed well. It's going to be, matching the brand. And we're working on a couple of those right now. But I really don't like to send people to a sales page. I'd rather send people to something that offers value first. So that's, for me, right at the moment, which works, is webinars. And so I'll send people to a free training where only those people will see the offer, as opposed to people just browsing around. I don't want people to be turned off in any way if they don't want the information. So I don't want them to click on my website and then all of a sudden they see a long sales page that turns them off and just thinks they're going to put me in that box as an online marketer, an internet marketer. I want them to say, listen, I'm going to offer you so much free value that you could pay for this and get your money's worth. And then for only those people who see the training that's free for 60 to 90 minutes, people that are interested can sign up for the program at the end. And
Right.
for me, that works right now. It may not work in, tomorrow or in a year or two, but it's been working for 5-6 years.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So walk us through the vision for your brand, today and moving forward. What do you want Lewis House to be in 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I want to be the guy that everyone wants to emulate. I want my brand to be the one that everyone looks up to and says, man, he's done an incredible job, where every media outlet will be knocking on my door just because they can't even put their finger on it, but they're just feel this energy around the brand and the content and the value of it, that they feel like they have to have it on. Whether that's me or someone on my team, it's not all about me, but I mean, just creating a brand that's so magnetic that every mainstream media, every magazine will want to do a cover, every YouTuber and podcast will want to have it on. Everyone with an audience will want to talk about it. That's the vision I see for the next 5 years. And to get there, I think it's going to be continuous consistency and upping the game every single opportunity I get. That's learning the landscape of social media. Right now it's interesting because it used to just be your website and, I don't know, Twitter and Facebook. And now, Instagram and Snapchat, I'm really learning the landscape of all these new social networking sites. And Instagram is actually a huge opportunity for me right now because people are just scrolling through constantly. If you talk to probably, 50 to 60% of people who are using social media on a daily basis, I bet those people are on Instagram for at least 20, 30 minutes a day if they're heavily involved in multiple social networking sites. And they're addicted. Right now, they're addicted. So if you can be in the stream and have high quality images, you're building this perception every time they see your photo. They're just building this perception of high quality or low quality based on what you're putting out there. And I feel like it's, my duty to continue to up the game and be strategic about everything I post, not just posting to post for fun, although I do that at times, but really thinking about what do I want people to imagine and feel every time my name pops up, an image of mine pops up, a piece of content of mine pops up. What's the feeling I want them to have? I want them to feel excited. I want them to feel like they have to read it because they're going to miss out if they don't. I want them to feel like they're going to get so much value from it, whether it be entertainment value or information or education. And I want them to feel like they're a part of a community and they know me and they trust me.
Yeah, it's powerful. What is the one word that you want your brand to stand for? What is the one thing that you want people to think of when they see your brand?
Well, I think that, it's,
I don't know if you'd thought
few
about
words.
that.
Few.
Yeah.
I think it's a few words. I would want it to be high integrity, high value, magnetic, powerful, and inspiring. I think that's like the things that I would want people to think about. Every time they saw it, they'd be like, wow, this is really inspiring. This is high value. This is like top level value. This is magnetic. Like, I just want to look at more. I just want to see more. I want to be a part of it. I want to touch it. I want to taste it. I want to soak it in. I want to take from it and learn from it and build my, use it as inspiration for what I'm creating. I want to just have an effect on people where they're feeling inspired to step up their game. I want to continue to push the boundaries so that other people feel like they need to step up.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So you started really, I would say, at least from the way that I've seen it, your momentum has really jumped up significantly over the last 18 months with the School of Greatness podcast.
Yeah.
When did you decide to start a podcast? Why did you decide to start it?
I think a number of things. It was like a perfect storm. I'd moved to LA for a girl that ended up not working out. And it was like this really stressful time for me because I moved to LA from New York. I loved New York. I was like on fire in New York and I was only there for a year and a half. So I didn't feel like jaded by the city yet. And I didn't feel, I just felt like I was just getting my feet wet. I moved to LA and my girlfriend breaks up with me the day I get there. And I didn't have a place yet. So I was just Airbnb-ing it. And I was like, and I didn't have a place in New York anymore. So I was like, what am I going to do with my life? And I ended up selling my company to my business partner at the time because I was moving out of just creating, courses about LinkedIn and social media. It wasn't my main passion anymore. So I'd sold that. I had gotten out of the relationship, and I was just kind of like trying to figure out what I wanted to do next. And being in LA, there's a lot of traffic, there's a lot of driving, and podcasting was just starting when I started back in January of 2013, was just kind of like getting a little bit of mainstream press. There was like a couple of big shows that were popular, the Joe Rogan show and Smart Passive Income, and Derek Halpern had a great podcast. So people were starting to do podcasts, and I was asking my friends, I was asking Derek and Pat from Smart Passive Income, I was like, what's the, one of the top ways you're generating traffic and leads right now? And Pat was like, believe it or not, my podcast drives some of the most traffic to my website, and it's just so cool and fun, and I'm building a great community, and this is how many people are listening from all over the world. And I was like, really? And I just had no clue. And I said to myself, I think this could be a great tool or mechanism to continue to build my audience and transition into the next thing. And I didn't want to do a show about business or social media or marketing. Like, that wasn't what I was inspired by. And ever since I read The 4 Hour Work Week in the Christmas of 2007, going into 2008, it opened me up to so many possibilities. Like, my mind had never thought of those possibilities. And I remember thinking to myself, this is like so powerful. And I was always into Tony Robbins and inspiration and success principles by Jack Canfield. And I just said, this is the stuff I love in life, is interviewing people, asking questions that most people don't answer, and giving answers to people who may not have access to those individuals. And so I said, I have a pretty decent network already from the last 4 years of being in business, and I've been, hustling to build these relationships from sports to business and authors. I had some decent connections. And so I said, I'm going to start this thing, and really I want to make, personal development sexy and mainstream, and make it something that's not a self-help negative connotation, but really something we all want and we all want to strive for, which is greatness. I don't think anyone doesn't want to be great at something. So I started it. I said, I'm going to do this once a week for a year, and we'll see where it goes. I had really no clue. And it just kind of took off within the first few months. I got, a sponsor on board within about 6 weeks who was like, I love this, and I love the guests you're bringing on, and I really see how you're doing it, and it makes a lot of sense to me. I want to be on board. I was reaching out to all these different people from walks of life, from New York Times bestsellers to athletes to anyone who inspired me. If they passed the test of inspiring me, then I wanted them on. I don't know. It worked out with timing, because podcasting started to open up and people started to listen to them more. Then when Serial hit, it opened up to more people. And being consistent over the last couple of years by doing it once a week for the first year, twice a week for the second year, and now 3 times a week for the third year, it's just continued to evolve and grow. It helped me get my book deal. It landed me a lot more credibility by being on the homepage of iTunes. When you can associate with other big brands, whether that being in the media or partnering with iTunes or whoever, if you're verified on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook, you're associating with powerful brands, which increases your brand value. And so by being on the homepage of iTunes, I think like 8 or 9 times now, featured alongside Tony Robbins or Scooter Braun or Tim Ferriss or Sean Johnson, it's allowed me to elevate my brand by association.
Let me ask you real quick, how do you end up on the homepage, of iTunes? Is that something that they initiate? Is that something that, you have a PR person that suggests to them? How does that work?
Yeah, I remember it was like one of the most beautiful emails I've ever seen in my life. It was from like iTunes, like a friend of mine who no longer works in the podcasting division. She reached out to me and said, hey, we love your podcast. We love the message, and we see, it growing. It got a lot of reviews, and they were seeing, I guess, what was being, downloaded the most, and they're probably like tracking things. And they said, hey, we would love to do a feature. Do you have any big guests coming up? Because we've seen you've had a few before, big guests. And I said, absolutely, I'd love to. Here's my, and so they asked for the graphics and the images, and then I just developed a relationship. I flew up to San Francisco and I went to Apple, and for me, it's about the relationships. And so I'll do whatever it takes to build those relationships, specifically in, places that could support my brand. So I built a relationship with them and continue to. And so I get featured probably every 6 or 8 weeks, it seems like. Whenever I have a big guest, I'll just present it to them now, and they trust me. And sometimes, pretty much like 90% of the time, they'll say, cool, yes, we can do it this week, and send us the graphics. So I make sure that I'm very strategic about the image I put up there, with making sure that I have
your team is designing that image.
Yes.
Not them. Okay.
My team. And I want to put my photo next to
right.
Tony Robbins or Scooter Braun, because as opposed to just that person, because a lot of people will just put that person's photo up there. And I'm like,
yep.
Why not leverage it and have my face in front of 300 million people as well, or whatever it is, so.
Absolutely. Absolutely. How many episodes did it take you, or how long did it take you before you really felt like the show had gained some traction and gained some momentum?
I think it was like last year I started to get, I think, around like 300,000 to 350,000 downloads a month. And I remember being like, after I broke the 100,000 a month mark, I remember being like, okay, this is starting to, it's something. It's not just like a little thing anymore. And now it's about 800,000 downloads a month. And so from a year ago, right now, it was like 350,000, and it's grown to 800,000. And it still feels like, it's tough because we can always compare ourselves to other people. And, I hear about Joe Rogan gets like, I think he gets like 12 million downloads a month right now. And I'm like, I'm still nothing compared.
Well, I was going to ask you, because at least the closest thing to our space would be Tim's show. So do you have any idea
Yes.
how many downloads he's getting right now?
I believe, I'm not sure if he's public about it, but he's kind of, alluded to it. I believe he's getting well over 1 million downloads a month. It's probably somewhere between 1.5 to 2 million, I'd assume right now, but I'm not sure if he's public with that or not. But this was months ago when he kind of alluded to he was getting around 1 to 1.3, I believe. But he just has such a massive audience that he can drive so much traffic from his blog and his social media that he was able to do that from the beginning.
Right.
So, and he gets featured on iTunes, and he's, so he's in the top 20 every day on iTunes, and that, the success gets more success. So
how have you handled booking, quality guests now, at least once a week? Because I found that personally to be a significant undertaking.
It was a challenge in the beginning. For me in the beginning, it was all relationships. And I just asked my friends, hey, can you come on?
Right.
Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do a podcast, and I'm going to use that interview. I'm going to transcribe it, and I'm going to create a Forbes post because I wrote for Forbes and Entrepreneur. So I was like, I'm going to do it here. I'm going to send it out to my entire email. So I would just ask friends who were high influencers, like, hey, can I bring you on and I'll promote the crap out of your book or whatever it was. So it was really about being strategic about when they had something they really wanted to promote and when they were going on a book tour or something. That's the only way I got Tony, because he had a book to offer. Otherwise, he would have never done an interview.
Right.
So I really capitalize on those moments with huge influencers. Like I just interviewed Susie Welch, an hour ago before our call, and she's Jack Welch's wife, and they have a book out. So I'm not sure if she would do an interview if they didn't have a book to promote.
Right.
So I'm constantly capitalizing on that. In the beginning, that's what I did because I had an email list already, and this is something, obviously you have a huge audience and email list there, so you can lead with, I've got 3.5 million email list or whatever it is.
Right.
And say, I want to promote your book and I want to promote this. And, I have a newer show, but I can guarantee that it's going to get out to this many people. So that's the best way to do that. And I just get tons of requests from people that want to be on the show. And so for me, I really have to just have discernment and see who's inspiring to me. And some of it's strategic, some of it I'm like really inspired by, but, maybe they're a reporter for a huge network and they have a book out as well. And maybe I'd be like, I don't know, I already had someone on who talked about this topic, but it's like, they're also very inspiring, have a huge audience. And I want to make sure that it's strategic so I can build that relationship to add value to them later, that maybe I could get on their show at some point or, and find ways to connect other people to that person to build my network. And so there's a lot of things that come into play, but really if they don't pass my inspiration test, then I probably won't have them on.
Well, it's the same thing when it comes to promoting somebody else's product, as an affiliate or something like that. If the product doesn't pass your own personal, love it test, then you're not doing anyone any favors in the long run.
Exactly. And again, my perceived brand is all I have online. Exactly. So if someone's like, oh, this was a crappy episode, like, why did you bring this person on? Even if it's like a friend of mine, there has to be some reason I bring them on that's going to inspire and elevate my audience. Otherwise, my audience won't come back again, and I'll be associating with a lesser value.
Right.
So it's a challenge, because I have really good friends who are like, dude, can you help me? Can you get me to promote? Can I come on to promote this and that? And I'm like, I have to say no sometimes, because it's not a good fit. It's not a good timing. Like, if you've got a book that makes sense, then maybe. But it's like, if you've got an event you're trying to promote or this and that, it's like, it just doesn't make sense. And there are plenty of other podcasts that you could be on for that. But this is, I'm not trying to be better. I'm trying to be different.
Right.
And I'm not trying to have, a lot of people will email me also and say, I just did The Art of Charm and Entrepreneur on Fire and Smart Passive Income, and I've got this, and this coming out, and I've got this much credibility. I'm a New York Times bestselling author. And I'll say, best of luck to you, man. I appreciate you reaching out, but it's not a good fit because you've been on 3 other shows that are in the same space as mine. And I'm not trying to just do the rounds with people. I'm trying to bring people that aren't on podcasts.
That's been, it's interesting you say that, because that's been my goal. And, to bring in lesser known people who are just as knowledgeable, powerful, and in your word, inspiring. And, from the guests that I've had on so far, I'm trying to find amazing people who haven't gone through, the rotation.
Exactly.
And that's not an easy gig.
It's not. And it's tough. And Tony Robbins went through the rotation, but it's like a huge opportunity for me. So I'll take that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's just about, using your own discernment, I guess.
One of the things that I've noticed that you've started doing this year too is, at least for many of the podcasts that I've seen, you're now bringing people to your office.
Yes.
And doing some video work. And
yes.
I'm curious, and I can understand why you want to get them on video, because that's another channel on YouTube that you can, put the content out towards. But from a logistics standpoint, bringing in guests to your office and your studio, I'm like, is he doing that at his expenses? That's a big piece out of their schedule to come down, and you know what I'm saying? Sure.
So, yeah. Luckily, I'm in Los Angeles, and there's a lot of influencers and authors and celebrities here. So it's only for the people that are in LA or in the LA area that they come. Okay. So it's not like I'm flying them out here.
Got it.
For Tony Robbins, I flew out to New York to do the interview, and I hired a crew out there, and it cost me thousands of dollars to do it, but it was worth it. And for here, they're coming in, but I'm hiring a film crew, so that's their half day rate or whatever it is. Then the editing, it's probably around $1,000 of footage and editing and the whole team, and and I get food and have food made for the guests and for my crew. So it's like, I want to make sure they have an amazing experience, and I'm able to build a relationship with that person so that I can serve them at a later date, and also that they'd want to support me at some time, that they'll want to promote the podcast because they felt like it was a great experience. Because when they share it to their 2 million Twitter followers, it's going to bring more of an audience to me and more exposure. So I'm willing to invest up front to get high quality content that I can leverage on Instagram video, on Facebook video, which is blowing up even more than YouTube, it seems like, and then also on YouTube. And I can leverage it into a video podcast and put that on iTunes, which I've yet to do yet. But it's just another touch point. It's so much more intimate, obviously, when you're in person than just over Skype. I mean, we know each other. You've had me over at your place. We've been friends for a while. So I think we were able to dive into this right away. But if I was someone you just emailed and reached out to, and if we were talking for the first time, we may not be as comfortable to express ourselves openly, or I may, be more hesitant or whatever. So getting people in person, giving them a hug, I'm a big hugger, and just building that relationship, I think, is so valuable for your brand, because how they perceive me is really important. And how they experience me is really important based on what they're going to do next with the information they get after they do the interview.
Yeah.
And what they say about me to their influencers, and what I want them to be like, oh yeah, I was on that show and it was awesome. He was a nice guy. You should go do it, as opposed to whatever.
Right.
You never know who they're going to talk to, or who's going to ask them a question, or what they're going to say. And I want people behind my back to be saying incredible things about the high value, the integrity, the quality of everything about me and the brand and the information I'm creating.
So next up, from a strategic branding standpoint, next up on your agenda this year is your big book launch.
Yes.
And so I'd like to, and we'll do something when the book comes out, because I'm very much looking forward to reading it personally, and I know it's a few months out still. But from a strategic business standpoint and a branding standpoint, what role is this book going to play for you in that regard?
It's a challenging thought right now, because I have huge hopes for this book. I have a big vision and a big dream for it. But I also don't want to throw my entire life at the expectation of the result that I'm wanting to get. Because, I asked Marie about this, and I say, what do you do if something fails that you put a lot of energy and effort into? And she said, you know what? I take it all in stride, because I look at it as one piece of my entire body of work. And it kind of gave me some relaxation in that moment, because again, I want to be a #1 New York Times bestseller. I want to sell 100,000 copies in the first couple months. I want to be on, magazine covers and get on every talk show there is. I want people to be raving about it. I want it to be in the front of Barnes & Noble bookstores. I want it to be #1 on Amazon. I want all those things. It's a vision of mine, but I don't want to be attached to those results so that it kills me if it doesn't happen. So that's the dream. That's the focus, because I believe that if that happens, it's going to raise the ship on my brand and my message, and it's going to inspire people to the next level. It's going to bring my podcast up. It's going to bring my exposure online. It's going to help me sell more products. It's going to give me more opportunities than I could ever get. I look at Tim Ferriss as a great example of this. Before he came out with the 4-Hour Workweek, he was a nobody, no one.
Right.
And afterwards, he is an investor in, I think, 40 different startups, Twitter and Facebook and, Uber. And he's one of the first advisors to Uber. His stock is worth so much money. It's insane. And he wouldn't have had those opportunities without writing that book. So for me, I want to create that. I want to create this experience and this leverage that inspires and impacts so many people that I then will have access to talk to any person I want in the world at any time. That's what I want for me. It's the relationships.
Do you have a #1 on your hit list?
for who I want to get on the podcast?
You've said if you can get anyone at any time, who would that be?
Well, I mean, anyone at any time. The people I'm inspired to bring on is The Rock, Will Smith, Jim Carrey, and I really like Rob Dyrdek, because I really think those guys would be great guests, and they're just crushing it in what they do, and they're really inspiring in what they do, and they have so much passion right now in this moment. I think it'd be great to have, Obama on, because he's the president. I think I would love to learn just like a lot about his entire last 8-year journey and the biggest lessons he learned and what opened up for him, and just kind of get behind the scenes there. But he's not like a #1 for me. It's be more like The Rock and Will Smith would be more fun for me, But just to be able to have access to go to any event, go to any, speak at the top places in the world, and then hang out afterwards at dinner with all the most inspiring men and women that are out there who are disrupting the world and being an interruption to people and raising the bar. I want to have access to those individuals and be in that conversation.
That's awesome. That is very cool. I can tell you spend a lot of time visualizing all of this.
Yes.
And it's interesting. I do the same. So, right now my visions and thoughts are consumed around the launch of my hydroponics product here at the next first quarter of next year. And I literally sit around all day and vision the magazine covers that I see it on, and the launch party that I want to have in Austin with 500 plus people at. And
sure.
And it's interesting how powerful that is. So for you, as far as your book launch goes, that's the first step to manifesting the reality. So it really is kind of a piece that you can't overlook. But I'm sure it will be hugely, hugely successful, my friend. So
thank you.
That is cool. And then, the book comes out, New York Times bestseller, you're getting The Rock. And so,
right.
What comes, I'm just trying to envision, is this, ultimately end up in an Oprah-esque situation? Is that what you want to do?
I want to be, eventually I want to be on TV. I think that's, for me, is the end goal, but TV may be something different in 5 years. I'm not sure. Yeah. I essentially my vision is to inspire 100 million people and show them how to make a full-time living doing what they love. I believe that's what's going to heal the world. I believe that's what I'm here to do. At least that's my mission right now. It may evolve. It may change. Something may happen that may be bigger or different for me, but that's what I'm up to right now. So I would love to make this my podcast, my platform, like the Jimmy Fallon of podcasts, and be able to get all the same people that he has on to the show, or make it more of like an Oprah-esque show where it's a mix between the two. Because that's what inspires me. That's what's fun. That's where I feel like it's my sweet spot. If I can bring that to a TV show, to a network, if I can raise the game faster and elevate it through TV, awesome. But I want to make sure that I do it where it's congruent with my vision and with my integrity and authenticity, so that I'm not just doing a show to do a show. Because in the last 6 months, I've been approached by multiple production companies out here and networks who want to use me as talent for different things. And I just haven't felt any of them make sense at the moment. For me, the vision is 100 million people. I want to impact and inspire 100 million people to step up. That's what I'm up to. And I'm not attached to the result of how it happens, or the mechanism, I should say, of how it happens. For right now, it's the podcast, and it will become the book and my website and my products and things like that. But eventually it could morph into something else.
So we've got a good handle on your vision. I would love to dive into the execution side of this vision, down to how you start your day, because you know this as well as I do, that success is in the details.
Yes.
It's one thing to have a grand vision, but that grand vision is built with little itty bitty pieces of sand every day.
Yes, of course.
And paying attention to the tiniest of little details. And so, if you could, I would love to discuss some of your key executables, if you will. How you treat yourself from a health and fitness perspective, to what your daily routine looks like. How much time do you personally spend on social media? Do you, I know you're building a team. How big is it?
Yes.
What roles do you have these days?
Yeah, let me first start off by saying every day I'm out of integrity, and I'm never perfect. And although I strive for greatness, there's so much that happens throughout the day that things slip up. I forget to do. I have rituals and routines, but I'm definitely not perfect. My let's say my negative, or my non-loving part of my ego flares up sometimes. I'm a human being. I make mistakes, and that's step one. So I try to allow myself the flexibility to be a human being first, because I don't want to just become a robot, and I don't think I can sustain that for the rest of my life. So I allow myself to make mistakes, and I try to, own them, be responsible, and move forward. But my daily routine, the intention for every day, and my vision, and what I do most days, most of the time, is I wake up, meditate for about 11 to 12 minutes. I have a 12-minute guided meditation audio that I listen to, that I've been listening to for about 10 years. I started listening to it back in college playing football, and I had the best season of my life when I started listening to this. And then I stopped listening to it for like 5 years, and then got back into it a couple of years ago.
Is this something you can buy, or is this something you recorded for yourself?
It's not something you can buy. I don't think you can buy it. My sister got like this recording from her like Yogi Swami up in northern Wisconsin on like Lake Superior, and he was from Nepal. And so I've had this audio that he like recorded. I don't even know if you, I have that download, so I could like put it out there, but I don't know if that's legal or whatever. So I could give it to you, but I can't sell it or anything. But I've been looking to actually recreate my own for my podcast, for my audience, because they've been asking me for something like that. But it's essentially, there's a lot of them that are similar. I've heard many similar ones like it. So it's nothing like, too crazy or different. It's just a guided visualization, meditation of getting you ready for your day, visualizing what you want. There's some, music playing in the background. It's just a calming, guided visualization. And this one happens to be about 11 and a half, 12 minutes long. So I start off with that.
When do you wake up?
Again, it all depends on the day and traveling and things like that. But I try to wake up before 8 a.m. So
like,
I
didn't know if you were going to be one of the 5 o'clock assassins
no.
Yeah. Okay.
I think the older I'm getting, I see the value in going to bed sooner and getting up earlier. So it kind of like 15-minute increments, like every 6 months, I feel like I try to wake up a little earlier. But it all depends, because I also see the value in building relationships, and the best relationships are built at night, after events, after the speech is over, after, the music of conference, backstage, at the diner at 2 a.m., talking about whatever is coming up for people. That's where the juice is, for me, created, and those relationships and bonds will be formed for life when you build them that way. So for me, that's why I'm not a perfect human being. Like I'm up sometimes at 2 a.m., 3 a.m. talking, having those late night conversations, living life, not trying to be so regimented and like, I have to go to bed right now because I have to, I give myself that flexibility. But the goal is to go to bed before midnight. And, when I go to bed before 11 p.m., I feel amazing. And I'm able to wake up at 6:30 and get started earlier. But typically, I try to wake up before 8 is kind of my thing, do my guided meditation. Then I go hit the workout. And this changes. I don't do the same thing every day forever because I get bored. So it may be going to the gym. It may be going for a run. It may be doing elliptical. It may be doing a HIIT workout. It just depends on what I'm up to in life right now, what I'm training for, if I'm working out with the USA national team or if I'm on a break, and what I'm doing. But I do something where I sweat and experience pain in the morning, something that's uncomfortable in the morning. And then I come back. I usually make my bed before then. If I haven't by then, I make my bed. The goal is to make it every morning and to make it as perfect as I can, because that creates completion. And a lot of people, Navy SEALs talk about this, and, every mother in the world talks about making your bed. So there must be something good out of it. From there, I will shower. I will brush my teeth. I do a little light stretching, and then I kind of get ready for the day. And the day is different every day, but it all is geared towards being around my vision, supporting my team. I do use social media a lot myself. I'm giving more and more of the responsibilities to my team to manage certain aspects of posting of content. But for me, I reply to a lot of people right now on Instagram and on Facebook posts. I'll reply to a lot of people and on Twitter. So a lot of that is me connecting back with people and leaving responses. I probably spend I probably spend more than I should on social media right now. It's probably not the best use of my time, but I really like to know the information. I really like to dive in and explore new sites and be ahead of the curve. So for me, I feel like it's an investment in building relationships. Even though it may not be the best use of my time, I want to have those touch points where people feel like they know me and they really are connecting with me, because they are.
Even a simple response to a tweet from someone or a comment or something, or even hitting like on their post if you're mentioned, they'll remember that forever.
Exactly. And I try to do that.
Like, oh my God, Lewis acknowledged, what I said.
Yeah,
it's huge.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it, the bigger the podcast grows and the more people that are exposed to it, I get a lot more emails and messages. So it takes more and more time. And so it's, probably an hour and a half on social media and email easily a day, if not 2 hours, combining the both of them. Some days I feel very overwhelmed. Some days I feel like I can't keep up and I can't get anything else done. So I just really need to check everything, check where I'm at, make sure I'm empowering my team to get things done so that I can be the creative one. But I'm also doing about 4 to 6 interviews a week, whether it's for my own podcast or for other shows like this one. So that's happening throughout the week. I'm doing taking a lot of phone call meetings with people. I'm brokering a lot of deals. Like a buddy of mine called me yesterday and said, do you know anyone who's got 1 million followers on Instagram that I can buy their accounts? I'm trying to get in the Instagram game. So I connected him with a friend of mine who had 500,000, and I said, hey, do this deal. So I'm constantly just putting people together, putting deals together, relationships together, and connecting. And a lot of it is also texting people, sending video messages, calling my friends, and deepening relationships and asking people, how can I serve you? How can I support you? What are you up to? Because for me, that's all that matters, is the relationships. And if I'm not in touch with people on a daily basis, and if I feel like I haven't talked to you, Mike, in 6 months, I'll probably reach out and be like, hey, man, what's going on? I hope you're doing well. How can I support you? Because that's really important to me. But all these things take time. And, the more people I interview and the more people I connect with, it's more and more relationships. So I think for me, it's constantly learning how to manage it all. I've got a team of about 9 full-time and then a few freelancers for different things here and there. And that's continuing to grow. But I've also got a full PR team. I've got, a book launch manager for my book coming out. So they're not on my full-time in-house team. I've also got, a designer team overseas that I work with that's not in-house. So there's a lot of people that are supporting the brand and me and my company who may not be full-time, but who are on the team. Yeah, it's all it's all fun and I'm learning still. I don't have it all figured out. And I'm constantly growing and just trying to improve each day.
One of the last things, as far as the personal health routine goes, that I thought was interesting, when we met up here in Austin, is that you don't drink at all. And that has to be a challenge considering the amount of socializing that, you find yourself doing.
Yeah, most people would think it'd be a challenge, but I never drank and I've never been drunk. So for me, it was never, it was never an issue. It was kind of like, this is who I am. And I don't know. I always saw it as something that would hold me back from sports. And I was willing to sacrifice letting go of any fun or any extra thing that people were doing that I saw hurt them. And I saw alcohol hurting all my teammates and the great athletes on my team who would drink after games or the night before, whatever. It's like they were sluggish. And I was like, I don't have the skills that they have. So I need to have a sharp mind and make sure that I'm running at 100%. And then after I was done playing football, I was like 24, 25. And I was like, what's the point? I don't see the value of being sluggish now. I need every advantage to get to the next level. So people always ask me, isn't this hard? Or I can't believe you do this. But I just feel like it's normal for me.
You don't miss what you never had.
Yeah, exactly.
Very cool. Well,
that doesn't mean I'm perfect in my health. My goal is to strive for greatness in my health, but I also love sugar and, cakes and cookies. So it's a matter of really managing that and just making sure that I live life and I enjoy things. But I also, it's like, I look at life and my business and my health as seasons. You cannot run, Tom Brady could not play a football game every Sunday for an entire year. His body would break. So he has an off season. And he has time where he can relax and recover and not do anything for a few days and allow his mind to reflect and have a season off. So I think the goal for me is to approach it like that. I want to be great at it. So there are times where I'm so disciplined, I'm on track, I've got everything down, I make sacrifices, I don't eat the candy because I'm focused. And then there are other times where what? This month, I'm just going to, once a week, I'm going to have fun and I'm going to indulge and I'm going to do this because I'm a human being and I want to experience life. So that's the way I take out of it. It's like there's always a next level, but you also got to experience life and just not let it hurt you.
Yeah, agreed. I've had a similar experience in the past when I used to do my professional cycling. Yeah. And, I can definitely tell that it has a huge impact on my performance these days from a business standpoint.
Sure.
If I go out with friends the night before, my next day is screwed, Yeah, you're not
going to be able to have energy and you're going to be tired and all that stuff.
It's extremely costly and it gets more and more costly the older that you get.
I'm not looking forward to that.
Well, brother, thank you so much for the time today.
Yeah, thanks, Mike.
This was hugely, hugely informative. It was a topic that I was really looking forward to discussing with you, and I learned a ton. It was definitely inspired by your vision, and am happy to help support that in any way that I can. And for folks who haven't, really been introduced to Lewis Howes, make sure you go over to lewishowes.com. Make sure you subscribe to the School of Greatness, which is one of the probably only 3 podcasts that I listen to every week. It's absolutely fantastic. And then, Lewis, what do people need to do to get on your email list, your newsletter list, whatever it may be, so that they, are in touch for the book launch coming up and everything else that you've got going on?
Yeah, a couple of things. If you are in the U.S., then you can text the word greatness on your mobile phone to 33444. And what that'll do is that'll put you on the early bird list for my book. But also, I'm going to be sharing kind of behind the scenes of my entire book launch to people who opt in there as well. So if, everything that I've been doing over the last few years, I've had this vision of this book, and I've been very strategic with every move. So I'm going to be sharing some of these moves I've been making, what I'm going to be coming out with, how I'm doing the launch, every step of the way for those that get on that list. So if you go to your mobile phone, text the word greatness to the number 33444. Or if you're international, you can just go to greatnessbook.com and there'll be a little opt-in there.
Awesome, brother. This was fantastic. Thank you once again. And I look forward to seeing what you come out with next.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate you, man. Go.